everyone and welcome to my craft room. I'm Leo from inkymemories.co.uk, an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based in South Wales. And today on this Tip Tuesday video we're going to be talking about how to make multiples and how to make multiples of a project really easily. And I'm going to be using the Peace and Joy bundles, the stamps and dies, to demonstrate this technique today. Now the tools that I'm going to be using with this are the Stamparatus. Now this can be found in your annual catalogue on page 164, and it is a stamping platform basically, and this is what forms the sort of basis of being able to make multiples of our project really easily. And in my Stamparatus I have the foam pad, and then I have one of the pieces of grid paper on top of that as well. So first thing we're actually going to do is some die cutting. So like I said, we're using the Peace and Joy bundle. This can be found in your August to December catalogue on page 18. And we're going to start off with some die cutting. So I want to have a whole bunch of this bright word die cut and ready to use on projects going forwards. And this is the best way to do this. It's nice and quick, and it lets you get the most out of your products, your supplies. So what I've done here is grab the die that fits this sentiment. So in this bundle of dies, each word has 3 dies that work with it. So you have the very close sort of string writing, if you like, version of the word. You have then the sort of bubbly version, and then you have the outline. This sort of middle one actually die cuts out the stamped version of the word, and this is the one that we're going to be using today. So I'm going to pop these out of the way, and we'll start off with the die cutting. Now because I'm die cutting first, this allows me to get as many die cuts out of my piece of cardstock as possible. If I was stamping all of these first and then fitting the die around the stamped images, I'd have to make sure that I left space between them all. It would mean I wouldn't be able to get as much sort of die cuts out of one sheet of paper, so this really helps sort of get the most out of your cardstock. So I'm going to bring in my stamping cut and emboss machine, and the sandwich that I'm using today is my base plate, so plate 1. I then have my thin die adapter plate 2. I have my magnetic cutting plate, which is plate 5, and then I have a clear plate 3 to go on the top. And the first thing, like I said, that I'm going to do is basically die cut as many of this die as I can get out of this piece of cardstock. So I'm just going to pop this on, and like I said, because I'm doing this first, I'm not stamping first, I can go right to the very edge of the cardstock. I can make sure that each die cut is nice and close together. So I'm really utilising every single piece of my card and not leaving any big gaps. So I'm just going to run this through as many times as I can and get as many die cuts out of this as possible. And as always, because I am die cutting the same sheet of paper multiple times, I'm only going to roll the plates through until the die is cut, and then roll it back so I don't end up with too much scarring on the surface of my paper. Okay, so that's my first one done. I'm just going to pop my finished die cut to one side and then keep going. And like I said, I can get this nice and close into the previous one. Really use up every tiny little bit of the cardstock there. Now that I've done all of my die cutting, I have my piece of cardstock here, which as you can see I've really used a huge chunk of this, and certainly a lot more than I would have done had I stamped all of these individually and made sure that I left enough space around the outside to be able to die cut it. And then I have my bunch of die cut pieces here as well. So next thing I'm going to do is just grab a pair of scissors, and I want to cut one of these sort of die cut pieces out to use as a bit of a template. So I'm literally just going to snip around one of them, and that's going to be the template that we use for the next stage. So then I'm going to bring back in my Stamparatus. So the Stamparatus, I know I have used it once on the channel already, so if you haven't seen that video, I'll pop a card up here for you now so you can go and check that out. And we did some hinge step technique on that particular card. It's not something I've used a lot though. So this is a 2-plate stamping platform. So here is the other plate, which fits into here. As you can see, it is open on 2 sides. This allows you to use it for pieces of cardstock that are bigger than this sort of 6x6 grid that you have here. You can use this on a full 12x12 piece of cardstock. It's by simply rotating your cardstock, having the edges come out of this sort of free edge here. It's great for lots of different techniques. Like I said, I have done a video showing you the hinge step technique already, and that's definitely one that I would recommend. It makes some really great results on your projects and is incredibly simple to do. But today we're going to be using this for something a little bit different. So I'm just going to grab the magnets from the base. Now, as I explained in my last video, when we use the Stamparatus, these magnets are incredibly strong. If they get too close together, they will sort of snap to each other, and there is a very big chance of them actually shattering. So you really don't want that to happen. So do be very careful when you're using them. Make sure that you place them very far apart, or as far apart as you can possibly get them, on your surface. So all I've done is take the template that we have sort of cut, one of the die cuts, and lay it down onto the surface of my Stamparatus and hold it down with the magnet. The next thing I'm going to do then is taking my stamp, which as you can see is beautifully stained from some red ink that I used it on previously. I'm just going to lay my stamp into the die cut that we have just done. It should fit in there nice and snugly. I'm going to pop my plate into place and flip it over to pick up that stamp. Just make sure that has stuck down nicely and that it is all nicely aligned in there. You can always test this as well. And what I'm going to also do, and this is a great tip when you're using your Stamparatus, pop your stamp case under the edge of the plate, and it just gives you a nice solid surface over there. So I've got here just the real red ink, and to test this I'm just going to ink up my stamp first of all. Just to make sure it is definitely in the right place for us. Press that down nice and firmly. Doesn't matter if we don't get a great impression from this, we are literally just making sure that it is properly lined up. And it is, I am happy with that. So I'm then going to take one of my die cut pieces and pop it back into the template that it has come out of. Just like so. Ink up my stamp again. And it doesn't matter if you get ink around the edge of the stamp on the stamp plate, that part shouldn't actually touch your project, so it's not going to affect the finished stamped image. Okay, fold that over and again press it down nice and firmly. We do have that foam pad underneath, which just helps to give that little bit of extra cushioning for the photopolymer stamp. And you might find that it does pick up, that's absolutely fine. Just gently pull it away and there is our stamped and die cut image. And then all you do is just keep going. It is that simple. So again, just pop your die cut piece into the template, ink up your stamp and carry on inking. There is our second one, all nicely done. The other great thing about stamping the image first onto the grid paper underneath is that if your template does move at any point, you have a nice outline that you can just check to make sure that it is back in the right position. Pop the next one in and keep going. And that is really all there is to it. You know, by the end of this I will have, let's see how many we ended up with here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've got 8 of these die cut pieces all ready to go. So that is 8 either card fronts, gift boxes or tags, whatever you want to use your stamped and die cut image for, in a much quicker way than stamping and die cutting each one by hand. So I hope you have enjoyed this very, very quick Tip Tuesday for you here today. Nice and quick, and we are going to be using these bright die cuts very soon, so look out for that project coming up shortly. Thank you so much for joining me today, and if you have liked this video, please do consider giving it a thumbs up. Let me know that you've watched it, and consider subscribing to the channel. I post 2 videos a week with project tutorials and tips and tricks on how to get the most out of your crafting time and supplies. If you have any questions or comments about Stampin' Up or any of the products that I've used today, pop them into the comments box below and I'd be happy to help you out. And also, if you are based in the UK and you don't currently have a demonstrator and you'd like a copy of our current catalogues, there will be a link in the description box below to the web form directly on my website where you can request those, and I'll pop a copy straight out into the post for you. All of the products that I have used today are available directly through my store with Stampin' Up, and again in the description box below I'll make sure there is a link there for you in case you wanted to get your hands on any of these products. I would definitely recommend the Stamparatus and this gorgeous Peace and Joy bundle. I've used it quite a few times already and there are still lots more Christmassy projects to come with that. Thank you again for joining me today, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.